Hey guys, it's Ricky here, and today is iPhone launch day. Well, by the time you're watching this, yesterday was iPhone launch day. In all of the myriad of devices that I wanted to take a look at and review, one stuck out that I was most interested in. This year, I think that the iPhone 16 Plus just might be the phone to buy. So it was far above and away the first phone that I unboxed, and I got in touch with the brand new teal color. And guys, the iPhone color lineup this year is absolutely incredible. Gone are the pastels of years past, although I will still say that the pink pastel from last year was actually pretty solid. This year, Apple's actually giving us a dose of color. The teal color is absolutely incredible, and from everything I've seen on the ultramarine, so is that. And the pink color actually looks really good as well. This is probably the first year in a long time that I would genuinely be shocked if someone picked a black or a white iPhone, one going with the base. It's even got me, someone who notoriously will buy the Pro XL or Pro Max variants of phones, strongly considering if I could live with a lower refresh rate display for a good color. And that brings up a good question. We are in this era where a lot of the Ultra phones don't get a lot of the fun colors. It is fun to have a dose of color in the lineup. It's surprising how much it can refresh and make the phones feel new. And when you have really genuine, solid, good colors like this teal, it can be an incentive for someone to actually upgrade. Believe it or not, a lot of us tech people who watch videos like this, we care about the raw specs, but a lot of people, they kind of care about the basic stuff. Little design improvements and things like a good color can be a genuine reason to upgrade, which is kind of why Apple in the past has released a new colorway mid-cycle. I think having a solid color lineup is actually a big deal, and this is far above and away the best looking base iPhone Apple has released since I think the iPhone 7. I know, that is a shocking statement, but the colors are good. Next up, I want to talk about buttons. The Action button finally made its way from the Pro series of phones over to the base models, and the Action button is what it is. It's a little hard to reach, so unless you plan on doing something fancy like setting up your favorite order on DoorDash to be delivered, would not know about doing that myself. Some of us just set it to do what the old toggle switch used to do, which is just mute, or I used to have it as a camera button. Don't really need that anymore. So instead, I've just moved that to be a flashlight. It's useful when you remember it. More often than not, I just hit the button on there or I use my Apple Watch. But that's just how I use my phone. I think if you plan on using it for something more complex, you will definitely see some fun use out of it. But I think beyond that, it is just a button instead of a good old faithful switch, and for some, it's something that is actually being lost. Now, it does get a little bit more interesting when we start talking about the camera Action button. Apple has a really distinct ability to not want to talk about this being a button.
It is a real button, right? It's a physical thing that depresses, right?
I think it's a first of its kind. There is a tactile switch that gives you that final click.
Believe it or not, it does click. It makes a pretty distinct click sound, and it is a pretty tactile, nice button to use. Multiple times, both me and my wife were using the phone. There was a very common consensus of it being very awkward to reach to, and the general feeling of it lacking something. For me, the Taptic engine that is in these phones is an incredible piece of hardware that makes certain things feel very alive. And having just used the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL, and feeling literally everything that that phone does, felt distinctly like it was missing something. Like it needed that little vibration, that feeling that you're actually kind of shifting the zoom on the lens. I felt like it was missing, and I feel like it needs that little touch. All the animations are spectacular, and it's nice to have quick access to some of these things. I do feel like it's repeating a lot of things you can do already, and the positioning isn't necessarily the best for a lot of vertical content. So it kind of just falls down to it's a new feature, it'll take time to adjust, and I'm excited for future features to come to the Action button, but I can only review it based off of what is on the phone currently, and right now it just feels like another button. And I will attest to the fact that I've already misclicked it multiple times. So if you're a little worried about that, it is a common thing. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. This is a 2024 flagship priced phone shipping with a 60 hertz display. And I know what a lot of you are thinking. This is insanity. Why is Apple still shipping with this? And frankly, I agree. I think that at this point in time, I think that these phones should be shipping with a bare minimum of 90 hertz as the refresh rate. It's sad that it's true that some people just don't notice. So I did take a little bit of time to have my wife scroll on my iPhone 16 Pro Max and have her scroll alongside on her iPhone 16 Plus. And this is what she had to say.
I mean, yours is brighter, but mine is also in dark mode, so that's a little bit, it's not really fair.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's not really the fair comparison there.
Yeah, I cannot tell the difference.
Now, two things can be true. People like my wife exist who will not notice the difference in how fast the refresh rate is. But the same thing can be true that those same people deserve 120 hertz refresh rate. They deserve an always-on display. If this phone shipped with at least a 90 hertz display, it would far above and away be one of the best bangs for your buck that Apple has ever delivered. This is the third year since ProMotion was delivered on a Pro phone. It's high time that regular consumers also get the faster refresh rate. I'll have a much bigger dive on camera performance when we get to the review. I like to do my reviews for at least 30 days just to get a better insight on how the phone's actually performing, if any updates have changed anything. But so far to say, the cameras are great. The 48 megapixel Fusion camera is fantastic. It's fun to scroll through the new color styles that Apple has provided and be able to tune them yourself. While we didn't have a whole lot of time to do that today, it's just fun to use your camera on here. And that is always a plus when just the basics work and they just feel nice and new and refreshing. And to be able to tune your own color style is nice. And that the UI that they presented with this is really fun and exciting. I haven't really seen a look that feels expressively me, but that's also because I look at photography and videography as a tool, and I would like to be able to tune that to a more preferred style at a later time. So finding a definitive one for myself right off the get-go isn't something I seek out. Definitely more on that in the future. Now, the last thing I do want to touch on is, given this is my first impressions, we have installed the iOS 18.1 beta. So essentially I have a beta of a beta on this phone. The lack of Apple Intelligence, the flagship feature not shipping on this phone, is felt. Never, ever, ever buy a device with the promise of a feature. Apple is pretty known to delivering things, but if you are looking to buy these phones purely for Apple Intelligence and what it can do, I would hold off. Save your money. Don't buy the phone just yet. Overall, this was just my first impressions of the new iPhone 16 Plus. So to answer my question from the beginning of this video, is this the iPhone to buy this year? I think if you don't really need that 120 hertz ProMotion, or don't really care if you have a 5x telephoto lens, I think, yeah, this is the best year that the base iPhone has seen in forever. I think that the colors absolutely knock it out of the park. I think that better battery life any year is a great feature. So if you're coming from a 12 or a 13, this is a perfect time to upgrade. I do have a few other videos in the pipeline, like an iPhone 16 Pro video, the new Apple Watches, along with the new AirPods. So stay tuned for those. But for now, if you haven't seen it already, I did recently explore if it was worth using a foldable in 2024. Other than that, I do hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.